Good afternoon and welcome. This is Spotlight Africa. We're coming to you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. My name is Emmanuel. Today on Spotlight Africa, French President Emmanuel Macron to embark on Africa tour. Ugandan police block NUP in Arua ahead of elections. Tanzania's president says election violence may hurt access to funding. Amnesty says Kenyan authorities paid trolls to threaten Gen Z protesters. Plus, Ethiopia receives historic artifacts held in Germany for 100 years. These stories are all just ahead on Spotlight Africa. Stay with us. Good afternoon, thanks for joining us. First on Spotlight Africa today, French President Emmanuel Macron will embark on a new tour of Africa this week, hoping to spur new dynamics in the relationship between France and the continent, according to the LC Palace. The tour will start with a visit to Mauritius today to promote partnership with neighboring French islands Mayotte and Réunion. After Mauritius, Macron will be flying off to South Africa to attend the G20 summit over the weekend, which will be marked by the boycott of the United States. The French president hoped to use the event to meet with his Algerian counterpart and try to appease tension between their two countries. The tour also includes a stop in Gabon, where Macron is scheduled to meet with President Brice Oligui Nguema. The army general won the presidential election in April. His victory effectively ended the two-year transition period that followed the ousting of Ali Bongo, an ally of France, in a coup. In Uganda, opposition National Unity Platform (NUP) says police blocked its staff from accessing a planned campaign venue in the key northern city of Arua on Wednesday. Supporters had gathered to welcome the party's 2026 presidential candidate, Bobi Wine, as he continued his nationwide mobilization ahead of January's election. The polls will see Ugandans choose the country's president, parliament, and local leaders. Long-time incumbent Yoweri Museveni, who has ruled since 1986, has once again been cleared by the Electoral Commission to seek another term, setting the stage for a high-stakes contest noticeably absent from the ballot. However, will be veteran opposition figure Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has spent more than a year in detention. His wife, Winnie Bayemba, has issued an emotional plea for justice and for his release. Besigye and his aide were arrested in Nairobi in November of 2024, returned to Uganda and taken directly to prison on treason-related charges. Their military trial later collapsed after the Supreme Court ruled that trying civilians in military court was unconstitutional. The pair now face treason charges before the High Court. In Kenya, authorities paid a network of trolls to threaten and intimidate young protesters during recent anti-government demonstrations. This is an allegation made by Amnesty International. A new report by the human rights organization said government agencies also employed surveillance and disinformation to target organizers of the mass protest, which swept Kenya across 2024 and 2025. The demonstrations were driven largely by Gen Z activists who used social media platforms to mobilize. In response to Amnesty's report, Kenya's interior minister said the government does not sanction harassment or violence against any citizen, but Amnesty said it had uncovered a campaign to silence and suppress the protesters. According to the report, young women and LGBT plus activists were disproportionately targeted with misogynistic and homophobic comment, as well as AI-generated pornographic images. Elsewhere, an anti-migrant group called Operation Dudula is stopping foreigners from accessing public health clinics in South Africa. Its members block clinic entrances, demand local identity documents, and turn away people without them. The Johannesburg High Court has ruled the group's action is unlawful, and South Africa's government says health care is available for all under the law. But Operation Dudula's popularity is rising in a country that has seen waves of sometimes deadly anti-migrant sentiment. Operation Dudula member Tuleki Makwana was one of the first people to arrive at the Delsloot Public Health Clinic in Johannesburg, not to seek medical attention, but to stop foreigners from getting care. She and fellow members of Operation Dudula, which means to get rid of by force, are dressed in military-style fatigues as they block the entrance and demand to see patients' identity documents. Mothers carrying children and others who were sick are turned away and told to go to private hospitals, which, unlike public ones, aren't free. We head now to Ethiopia, where 12 historical artifacts have been formally returned after being kept by a German family for more than 100 years. The artifacts, originally collected in the 1920s by Germany's then envoy to Ethiopia, Franz Weiss, and his wife Hedwig, were handed over on Wednesday to the Institute of Ethiopian Studies at Addis Ababa University. The collection included crowns, shields, and paintings, all considered culturally and historically significant in Ethiopia. Professor Raymond Weiss, whose father was born during the family's diplomatic posting in Ethiopia, handed over the items at a ceremony attended by Tourism Minister Salamawit Kaza. Away from that, Tanzania's President Samia Hassan has said that the violence that followed the country's disputed October election could hurt access to international funding. Speaking as she swore in government ministers, Hassan said what happened had tarnished the country's image and reduced its chances of getting loans. She urged officials to focus on raising funds from domestic sources. Reports say Tanzania remains fiscally dependent on external financing, with aid still accounting for some 23% of government revenue in 2023. South Africa says security services are ready for G20 summit. We'll bring you the details of this story and more after this time out. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned. It's still Spotlight Africa. And we head to South Africa again, where investigation is underway due to a fatal shooting of a school principal and an administrative staff member at the Nzeweni Primary School in Sembisa. The two women were killed inside the school's administration block late on Tuesday afternoon. The Gauteng Department of Education said the attack happened shortly after 5 p.m. while staff were preparing for an upcoming meeting. Colleagues in a nearby office reported hearing several gunshots before taking cover. When they emerged, they found the 58-year-old principal and a 55-year-old administrator lying in the corridor. Emergency teams arrived soon after, but both victims were declared dead at the scene. Police have opened a murder investigation, though no arrest had been announced as of Wednesday. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufu and Education Meg Matomi visited the school hours later, meeting with officials and the families of the victims. The Education Department said counseling teams and wellness personnel have been deployed to support teachers and learners affected by the attack. Shiloni condemned the killings, calling them a shocking act of violence inside a space meant to be safe for children and educators. He urged police to act swiftly to find those responsible. Meanwhile, with just a few days to the first ever G20 Leaders Summit in Africa, South Africa's security cluster says it is ready to secure delegates from around the world. The acting Minister of Police and the National Police Commissioner rallied troops at a parade in Soweto, saying they must act decisively against troublemakers. Meanwhile, the Police Commissioner, General Fanny Mesmola, told officers that the country was depending on them for the summit to go off smoothly. The police service said protests at the summit in Johannesburg will only be allowed in designated areas around the venue. Security forces and hunters have intensified efforts to find and rescue the Nigerian schoolgirls, local officials have reported. Security teams swept nearby forests where gangs often hide, while others were deployed along major roads leading to the school. The girls were kidnapped before dawn on Monday when gunmen attacked the dormitory at the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School in Kebbi State, Maga Town. Local police said the gunmen scaled the fence to enter the school premises and exchanged gunfire with police officers before seizing the girls and killing a staff member. No group has claimed responsibility for taking the girls, but analysts and locals say gangs of bandits often target schools, travelers and remote villages in kidnappings for ransom. Authorities say the bandits are mostly former headers who have taken up arms against farming communities after clashes between them over strained resources. Civil society leaders have accused security forces of inaction. On the streets of Lagos on Wednesday, Nigerians expressed their outrage over the kidnappings. And that's all we have for you today on Spotlight Africa, bringing you stories all around the continent. This has been put together by Spectrum Television. Do well to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spotlight Africa, we are Good afternoon.